Ohai. Tashkent. The capital and the largest city of Uzbekistan, the city of Republican subordination. The most populated city of Central Asia. People. Center of the Tashkent city agglomeration, the most important political, economic, cultural and scientific center of the country, and also aviation, railway and automobile junction. It is located in the northeast of the country, near border with Kazakhstan. Tashkent, the third city in seas on population, is one of the most ancient cities of Central Asia. In 2009, the 2200th anniversary of the city was celebrated. In Tashkent there are public authorities of the power, embassy of the foreign states, the headquarters of most the largest Uzbekistan commercial organizations and public associations. Etymology. In written sources it is mentioned since the 4-5 centuries of our era under names of Dads, Tashkent, Shashkent, Binkent. Only in the 11th century in works of the Central Asian scientists Al-Biruni and Mahmud of Kashgaria the Tashkent form for the first time meets. Explained with Al-Kashgari the first Tashkent as the stone city. Turkic Tash, stone, Kent, city. And Biruni, supporting this interpretation, I noted that Shashkent is the distorted form Turkic Tashkent. Obviously, as Tashkent is other form of distortion of the same name. The Binkent option meets in works of the Arab geographers. Greeks called the area where now there is Tashkent, Tsena. Geography. Tashkent is located in a northeast part of the republic, on the plain in the valley of the river Cherchik, at the height of 440-480 meters above sea level, and occupies the territory in hectares. Spurs of the western Tian Shan are located to the east and the northeast of Tashkent. The square of the city makes 3,578,447 hectares. 35784 km. Including 2,218,658 hectares. 62.00% of the industrial land, transport, communications, defenses and other lands. 924,836 hectares. 25.84% of the earth of settlements. 229,971 hectares. 6.43% of the agricultural land. Practically all of them are concentrated in Yanjikiotsky district, in which make a half of his territory. 1,125.95 hectares. 3.15% of the earth of water fund. 48505 hectares. 1.36% of the earth of historical and cultural value. 31550. 88%. Lands for conservation. 121.82. 0.34%. Earth of reserves. 1.50 hectares. 0.00% of the forest land. All in Chilinzarsky district. Tashkent is located on limit of subtropical and moderately continental climatic zones. In a year 440 mm of rainfall drop out that, in comparison with low semi-desertic and desert regions, owing to proximity of mountains, is quite considerable here. Frosts are usually very short, but when clearings temperature sometimes decreases to -20 C and below. In the summer temperature quite often reaches +35-40 C in a shadow. The smallest temperature -29.5 C. On December 20, 1930. The greatest +44.6 C. On July 18, 1997. The 40-day period of windless summer heat known as, is an integral part of city culture of Tashkent. The spring and fall come early. It is connected, mainly, with the fact that warming up and cooling of air happens quickly owing to lack of reservoirs. Average annual temperature, +14.8 C. Average annual speed of wind -1.4 m/s. Average annual humidity of air -56%. Fauna. At the end of the 19th century in the neighborhood of Tashkent, tigers were found in numerous thickets of cane. Riparian forests. Along the rivers and channels of Cherchik. In January 1879, the tiger roaming at Beshagatsky Gate gave strong trouble to the residents of Tashkent and neighboring kishlaks who were afraid to go beyond city walls on brushwood preparation. Locals led by the head of the settlement of Zhengjiu to track down an animal, however the animal who jumped on them from an ambush killed the rural head and hard wounded 2 more hunters. In a botanical garden of Tashkent meets more than 30 nesting, flying and wintering bird species, which number is atypical for other territory of Tashkent. A small toadstool, a small cormorant, a hawk propelliodnik, a buzzard. East. A pheasant, a komishnitsa, a ringdove, a splushka, a halcyon, a white-winged woodpecker, a bake. Bukhara. Titmouse, a blue tit. Zeltigrudi. A sphiristal, Maine, a wren, a blackbird, a Chernozobic thrush, a warbler Tinkovka, Slav Kamelnichek, the siskin, is brisk, a chaffinch, an ordinary grosbeak and others. Ecology. Nearly a half of the territory of the capital are occupied by green plantings. Today it is the share of each Tashkentets on 69 planted trees and shrubs square meters. Sometimes in Tashkent there is an adverse ecological situation when in the city the strong result as a result of which visibility achieves no more than 1.53 km is noted. In these cases of Mount Tian Shan, seen on the horizon when air in the city clean, aren't visible or visible extremely badly. History. It is known since the 2 centuries to N. Various names of this area: Shashtepa, Chaktepa meet. Since the 11th century Tashkent is known under the name that it presumably means, the Stone City. S can mean in Chinese including stone. After settling of the region by Turkic tribes, these names could be transformed to a conformable word with the same semantic loading in Turkic languages. Stone. In the second half of the 3rd century, governors Chaka released stone coin. The self-name of the state was Chakanap. The people of the country Chaka. As the plate's name Chak is for the first time mentioned in the inscription of the Sassanid Czar Shapore, which is beaten out on Zoroaster's Kaaba in Iran in 262. In 558-603 years Chak was a part of the Turkic Khaganate. At the beginning of the 7th century the Turkic Khaganate as a result of internal wars and wars with the neighbors broke up to the western and east Khaganates. The West Turkic governor Tonyabakagan. 618-630. Arranged the rate in the area Mingbulak to the north from Chaka. Here he accepted embassies from emperors of the Tansky Empire and Byzantium. In 626 to Kagan there came the Indian preacher Prabhakara Mitra with 10 satellites. In 628 in Mingbulak there arrived the Buddhist Chinese monk Xuanzang. Turkic governors Chaka minted the coins with an inscription on the face of Mr. Hakan of Deng. The middle of the 8th century. With an inscription in the governor Turk. The 7th century. In Nudseta in the middle of the 8th century there were coins with the front inscription Nanchu. Vanchu. Ertigan sovereign. In the territory of modern Tashkent. During an era of the early Middle Ages the knot from 4 cities and up to 20 locks and settlements was created. The central place among them was taken by the capital Madinat ash-Shash, whose ruins are studied on the ancient settlement Mingaryuk. At excavation of joint stock company Tepe on Yunusabada, the country residence of the governor with the palace. The 5-8 centuries. On which second floor the ceremonial hall with wall paintings was located was found. The author of the 10th century Ibn Hawqal reported the following data on the capital of Shasha. Binkit, the capital of Shasha. Inim is available in a citadel at what the last out of Asia Kristan. Nevertheless a citadel and are surrounded with the same wall. Near Asia Kristan Rabat, around which there is also a wall, lies. Besides, out of this wall there is other Rabat and also gardens and dwellings. This Rabat is also surrounded by a wall. In a citadel is available 2 gate. Some of them are turned to Rabat, others to Asia Kristan. In the Shakristana of 3 gate. Some of them are called Abbas's gate, others Kishskimi, and the 3rd Juniad's gate. In the first Rabat 10 gate. Some of them are called Gate of Rabat Hamdi, the second bear a name of iron internal gate. The 3rd, the Emir's gate, the 4th, Gate Furkan, the 5th, Sirk's gate, the 6th, Gate of Kermans, the 7th, Stupnaya Street gate, the 8th, Rashtadzik gate, the 9th, Gate of Hakan Street, and the 10th gate of the Dikkanalak. The palace of the governor and prisoner in a citadel, and the cathedral mosque near a fortification. A part of markets is in the Shakristana, the majority of them is located in Rabat. In Tashkent, Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Ali ash-Shashi, known as Al-Kafil, the Islamic theologian, the scientist, the jurist of Shafi'i Madhab, and the linguist, was born ash-Shashi. 904-975. At the end of the 10th century Tashkent became a part of possession of the Turkic state of Karakanadav. In 998-99 the Tashkent Oasis departed to a Karakanad of Ahmadu ibn Ali, who ruled the northeast Mavaranakra areas. In 1177-78 the certain Khanate in the Tashkent Oasis was formed. Manakat Wermuyas held Dunya of Viedidines of College hand minted dirhams. In 1195-1197 Jalal held Dunya of Viedidines Tafik Hakan. In 1197-1206 Imad held Dunya of Viedidines Ulagagdish of Chigrihan became his center. At the beginning of the 13th century Tashkent was a part of the state of Hormshafavanishtajinada. In 1220 the city was destroyed by Genghis Khan's hordes. Zangiata. I died in 1258. A real name Ai Hadha. Ibn Tads of Hajj ibn Mansur, the aged man. The theologian, one of followers of the large theorist and the sheikh of the doctrine Hajj Ahmad of Yasavi, was the famous Sufi figure from Tashkent. At Timur, 1336-1405. Government. Tashkent was restored, and in the 14th, 15th centuries Tashkent was a part of the Empire of Timur. For Timur, Tashkent was considered as the strategic city. In 1391 Timur went in the spring from Tashkent to Deshti Kipchak to war with the Khan of the Golden Horde Toktamish Hanum. Timur came back from this victorious campaign through Tashkent. Sheikh Hovendi attacker. Z. the first half of the 14th century. Was the most famous saint Sufi Tashkent. According to the legend, Amir Timur treating the wounded leg in Tashkent by means of medicinal water of a source of fellow countrymen ordered to build the mausoleum to the saint. In the 16th century Tashkent the dynasty Shibanidav operated. The famous theologian and the traveller, the historiographer Uzbekistan Isfakhani, gives the following characteristic of Sawan Chahanu. His Highness the valorous, nobly conceiving Sultan, the Nice sovereign, the high sedate Padishah, the Soyansvata Sultan, who is pearl of the sea of life of His Majesty. Great Khan Abu el-Har Khan. The throne of Tashkent and the area subordinated to him is in an imperious and mighty hand of His Highness. Shibani Han. 1500-1510. The founder of a new dynasty, appointed in 1503. According to other data, in 1508. The Sultan of the Tashkent possession, the uncle, Sawan Shah Sultana. According to data from Hadia Bulbak ibn Bakadan's composition, a Press al-Makamat. The 17th century. The army Shaybanidav led by Sawan Shah Sultan besieged Tashkent and as a result captured him, despite the heroic protection of the city organized by Hadzi Takar, Sheikh Havan Takar's descendant. In 1513 Sawan Chahan reflected attack on Tashkent of Qasim Hana, which was brought down from a horse directly in the middle of battle, but by miracle survived, only thanks to the fact that opponents didn't recognize the Khan. As the academician Bartold 5 writes, leaning on the words Mirza Muhammad of Haidar, Qasim Han didn't dream after that of gains anymore. Sawan Chahan, several times I made campaigns of the minding Kazakh sultans and I came back with big production. Sawan Chahan was the educated governor and, following traditions of the ancestors of Mirza Ulugh Bek and Abulkair Hana, I brought together at the yard the famous scientists, writers and poets, among them Vasif, Abdullah Nasrullaki, Masood bin Osmani Kukistani. Vasif, since 1518 I was a tutor of the son Sawan Chahan, a Chaldi of Muhammad, with whom after the death of his father in 1525 I moved to Tashkent. And after the death of the former pupil I became the tutor of his son Abu al-Muzaffar Hassan Sultan. Since time of board of Sawan Chahana and at his successor's strengthening of a role of Uzbek in literary life of the region is noted. Tashkent becomes the center of gravity of many representatives of intellectual elite. By order of Sawan Chahana several compositions were translated from Persian on Uzbek. Later for his son Nuruz Ahmad Khan perfectly issued manuscript Bustan of the Persian poet Sadi Shirazi was rewritten. In Old Uzbek also official documents of the Tashkent-specific governors were formed. Samples of such documents, for example earlier unknown documents from the collection of labels, are stored still. These documents are included in handwritten fund of Institute of Oriental Studies of Academy of Sciences of Uzbekistan under accession number 1644 and are of great interest to science. The collection contains 146 firman labels, Sayergoni and Tarkani diplomas of the 16th, 19th centuries given by Khans and local governors addressed to Karaskan Sayyid, descendants of Saint Sultan Sayyida. The earliest document is issued by Sawan Chahanam in 928. X. To said Fazl Ali, and the last, Nasruddin Hanum, the son of Hudoyer Hanna, addressed to said Jalaluddin Hadi in Iradzaba of 1292 x. August 1876. Abdullah Nasrullaki at the request of Sawan Chahanna wrote the historical composition, Zabdat is Scarlet Asar in Old Uzbek. Construction in Tashkent of the known Charbagh, a garden from 4 parts Kaikas is connected with the name Sawan Chahanna. In this garden poets, writers, musicians and experts on fiqh, the Islamic law gathered, and literary debates, majlises and holidays were held. Also in a garden the rate of the Khan of Tashkent and a clinic. Generally, for wounded were located at Battle of the Uzbek Sultans. The largest of 23 madrasas of Old Tashkent is constructed no later than 1569 by the minister of the Tashkent Shaibanitsky Sultans Barak Khan and Dervish of the Khan. Having the surname Kukaldash. Further, the city was subordinated to a Shibanid Abdullah Khan II. The governor actually since 1557, officially in 1583, 1598. Who released the coins here. From 1598 to 1604 Tashkent of rules Khaldi Muhammad who released on its own behalf silver and copper coins. In 1612 Yalantish Bakadur at the head of troops of the Bukhara Khan of Anash Tarkanat. A Jananada. Imam Kuli Hanna seized Tashkent. By the beginning of the 18th century the Uzbek Sortisked captured Tashkent and some areas on average the Sirdarya current. In the first half of the 18th century in Tashkent, the Bukhara currency, or probably the Khorazm copper coins as their own Chechen aren't revealed, remained in circulation. In 1784 Yunus Haj, the governor of Adak region of Sheikhantor, united all city under the power and created the independent Tashkent state which by the beginning of the 19th century occupied extensive lands. However, after that Yunus Hadi and his successors the Tashkent state was subordinated by the Kokand Khanate. In 1807-1808. At the Kokand dominion Tashkent was surrounded with a ditch and a Kabgir wall. Length about 20 kilometers. With 12 gate. In a northeast part were located Lubzaksky and Kashgar, in east, Kokand, Kaitmasky and Semigoksky, in the southeast, Kamalan, the south, Samarkand, in the west, Kakinsky, Chigatysky, Saidbansky, Karaswisky and in the north, Taktopolsky. The population was about 100,000. The city was famous for numerous spinning and weavers' workshops, eatery and metalworking, tanning, potters and textile production. In Tashkent about 400 mosques, 10 madrasas worked. In the mayor Istudbek who was appointed the Kokand Khan, the Mingbash operating 4 parts of the city submitted to him. Kuka, Beshigek, Shekantakar, Sebzer. In the middle of the 19th century, Tashkent was the largest center of domestic, foreign and transit trade of edge. Especially large role was played by him as not of the caravan tracks connecting the Uzbek Khanates with the Kazakh steppe, Russia and the western China. To the middle of the 19th century, Tashkent was one of the most important cultural and craft centers of Central Asia. The Homadsala Tashkondi was the famous Tashkent historian of the second half of the 19th century. He built the family tree to famous Sheikh Havandai Takar. I studied in Bukhara and in 1862 I returned to Tashkent. In 1864 and in 1865 it participated in defense of Tashkent, protecting the city from attack of groups of the General M. Shi. Cherniev witnessed signing a peace treaty of residence of Tashkent with military of Russia. 1865. He is an author to Tarijij Dawai Tashkent. The Modern History of Tashkent. Written within 25 years. From May 1863 to 1886/87. The new part of the city was based after his capture by the Russian troops in 1865. It separated from the old city Anchor Channel. In 1865 Tashkent is a port of the Russian Empire and since 1867 is the main town of the Sirdarya region and the Turkestan Governorate General and also the center of the Tashkent County as a part of the Sirdarya region. Tashkent, a residence of the Governor-General and top military commander of the Turkestan Military District, the station of the Central Asian Railroad, the administrative and commerce and industry center of the Russian Central Asian possession. On June 24. On July 1892 in Tashkent there was a cholera revolt. In Tashkent in the second half of the 19th century there was a slave market with a free purchase and sale of people, their exchange for the cattle or household goods. In October 1905 in Tashkent efforts of fighting team from 80 people, organized by the Social Democrat A. Vyazansky, broke attempt of the Jewish disorder. According to a census of 1897, in Tashkent there were card inhabitants. On the native language. Turkic adverbs without distribution -116,604 persons, Great Russian language. Russian. -14993 persons, Sarsky language. Uzbek dialect -11749 people, Tatar -2313 people, Low Russian. Ukrainian -2600 people, Kyrgyz-Kazakhsky language. Kazakh -1911 people, the Jewish language -1438 people, Persian -534 person, Tajik -339 people, Uzbek. Kachkaksky dialects of Uzbek -61 persons and other nationalities. In the city there were following educational institutions. Men's gymnasium, real school, military school, female gymnasium, teachers seminary, Marinsky 4 great women's school, private female pro-gymnasium, 2 city 4 great men's schools, craft and technical railway schools and parish schools. At the end of 1914 in Tashkent the Tashkent Military College was organized. At the beginning of the 20th century in Tashkent the national and educational movement, Jadidism arose. Mina Varvkara, 1878-1931. The Uzbek educator and the head of the organization Shura and Islam in Turkestan was one of leaders of the Turkestan Dudat. S. Abdugaffarov was the first indigenous Turkestani who mastered Russian, the Muslim educator. At the beginning of 1880, Abdugaffarov, one of the first representatives of the local intellectuals, came to a conclusion about need of modernization of structure of traditional education of younger generation, with preservation of a system of Islamic values. Other educator from Tashkent was a Avloni, who in 1904 became one of heads of Dudat, and in 1909 he created the Jamiat-e Hiratia organization. In 1907 Avloni based the Shukrat newspaper. Avloni the first suggested to teach geography, chemistry, astronomy and physics at national schools of Turkestan. The Tashkent reformer Ismail Obidi, 1880-1941. Since 1906 began to publish the jaded newspaper Taraki in Uzbek, but soon the newspaper was closed by the authorities because of a number of critiques. In Tashkent it became known as Ismail Taraki. Abdurrahman Sadiq of Anogla, 1879-1918. The prominent Uzbek educator, the translator polyglot, the journalist, the jaded was other native of Tashkent. In 1908 gets acquainted from Univarkara Abdurshakhanafid, through whom I got acquainted with the ideas of Jadidism. In 1915 I opened the social and political magazine, Al-Islaq, which was closed by the authorities in 1918 because of critiques. An editor of the magazine was Abdurrahman Sadiq of Anogla. He wrote a number of works on Islamic ethics and about the history of the sacred Muslim cities. The first Uzbek lawyer U. Asadulakaya, from Founders of Society Turan, 1913, was a native of Tashkent. He based in Tashkent the Sadoi Turkestan newspaper. 4 on April 17, 1914, and was her editor. He was the chairman of Society Shura and Islamia, the secretary and the member of Central Office of Muslims of Turkestan, created at the First Congress of Muslims of Turkestan, April 1917. Member of the Central Committee of the All-Russian Muslim Council, 1917. In September 1917 there was an attempt of violent seizure of power by representatives of Council of Soldiers and Working Deputies and Interim Revolutionary Committee, and 1 month later, the armed seizure of power in Tashkent by the coalition of the left social revolutionaries and Bolsheviks. Transition of the power to councils of soldiers and working deputies. With one on November 14, 1917. After the victory of an armed revolt of Bolsheviks and left social revolutionaries. The city was a support of the Soviet power in the region. In 1918-1924 Tashkent, the capital Turkestan the Asr. On January 18, 21, 1919 in the city the counter-revolutionary rebellion under the leadership of the Minister of War of the Turkestan Republic Konstantin Osipov. Become history as the Osipovsky Mutiny. Was lifted, during whom 14 commissioners of the Turkestan Republic were killed. In 1924, as a result of national and territorial delimitation, Tashkent was a part of the Uzbek Sur. In 1930-1991 Tashkent was the capital of the Uzbek Sur as a part of the Usur and the regional center of the Tashkent region. In Tashkent the founder of the Uzbek Romanticism Abdullah of Qadiriyya was born. In Tashkent there was born and lived the Uzbek poetess Zulfiya Iralova, a pseudonym Zulfiya. In 1921 Tashkent was visited by Sergei Yesenin. By the invitation of the director of the Turkestan Public Library on May 25, 1921 Yesenin acted in library at the literary soiree given by his friends. The big part of the life of the daughter of the poet Tatyana passed in Tashkent. Stalin repressions of 1930 destroyed the 1958 years many representatives of the intellectuals of Tashkent, national leaders and writers, poets, musicians. Among them there are Osman Nasir, Elbek Tubat A. Kadiri A. Chulpan and others. During the Great Patriotic War Tashkent becomes one of the centers of evacuation. Factories, the plants, theaters, film studios move here. Many people from the occupied European part of the USA lived during evacuation in Tashkent. For example, Anna Akhmatova, Faina Ranovskaya, Korny Tchaikovsky, Rina Zelyanaya. In December 1941 in Tashkent 137 enterprises worked, from them 64 turned out military products. Boyцы Uzbekistan were at war on fronts of the Great Patriotic War. In the years of the war in the city about 20 hospitals worked. In 1943 in Tashkent on the basis of the Uzbek Branch Academy of Sciences of the USA the Academy of Sciences of the Uzbek Siski was founded. In 1948 the building of the State Academic Bolshoi Theatre of Alisher was built. A5. Shusev, the author of projects of the Lenin Mausoleum at Red Square, the Kazan station was his architect. National artists of Uzbekistan, Shirin Muradov Slips, Abdul Boltayev and others participated in finishing works. The theatre is also known for the history of construction in which hundreds of Japanese prisoners took part. The big contribution to improvement of Tashkent was made by the head of the Uzbek Surshens, R. Rashidov, 1959-1983. On his initiative in 1977 for the first time in Central Asia the subway in Tashkent was open. Rashidov supported young poets and writers of Uzbekistan, especially such outstanding poets as Erkin Vakidov, the author of the poem Uzbegim, and Abdullah Aripov, the author of the poem Uzbekistan. The museums were open. The Literary Museum of Alisher 5. Lenin's Museum in Tashkent, Mukhtar Ashrafi's House Museum and others. In 1950, the 1978 years in Tashkent lived in the famous poets, writers and composers G. Gulium, Ibek, Sheikh Said, Zulfiya M. Ashrafi A.F. Kozlovsky, Myrmiksin, Said Ahmed and others worked. In Tashkent the Academy of Sciences at which institutes of nuclear physics, chemistry of plants, seismology, electronic engineers, biochemistry and others were open functioned. After the Tashkent earthquake of 1966 thousands of representatives of other nationalities lodged in the city. In Yunusobod, the Tashkent television tower constructed in 1981 remains one of the main attractions. In 1968, according to the decision of Council of Ministers, the territory area of Tashkent was increased due to inclusion in structure of the city of Karasoysky district of the Tashkent region, which was located between the river Terchik and Karatsujanel. At the same time, redistribution of territories of some districts of the city was made. So, Ubashevsky district gave a part of the territory to again formed Hunzinsky district. Yashnabadsky district now. The territory of Karasoysky district was a part of two areas, Hunzinsky and Lenin. Mirabadsky district now. During the Soviet period, such events as took place. The tragedy on Aktup Channel on January 19, 1973. On April 26, 1966 in Tashkent there was a strong earthquake, as a result of which houses in the central part of the city sustained considerable damage. The city was completely restored for 3.5 years thanks to efforts of federal republics. Reconstruction is carried out and several new residential districts are built. Many houses and quarters still carry names of the cities helping in hard time. Since September 1991, Tashkent, the capital of independent Uzbekistan and the center of the Tashkent Wilayat. In 2009, the 200th anniversary of the city was celebrated. For Massachusetts festivities during festivals Nowruz, an Independence Day between the Palace of Friendship of the People, National Park and the Lake Komsomol was broken National Park of Alisher Navoy. Here the monument to the great poet was built. The State Museum of the History Timurdav. 1995. On which architectural image traditions of national architecture had a great impact, became one of the first ideologically significant public buildings in Tashkent. The classical style in architecture of office buildings is characteristic of the Hakimiyat of Tashkent. 1996. An Oli Majlis of the Republic of Uzbekistan. 1997. Both buildings are decorated in traditions of national architecture by wood carving, to a ganch and picturesque compositions. In days of independence of Uzbekistan in Tashkent there were new constructions, new monuments were built. To Mirzo Ulugh Bek, Emir Temur. In August 2005 the Arch of Kind and Noble Aspirations was erected on the main square of the country. Architectural achievement is the mosque minor built in 2014 on the bank of Angkor Channel in the center of Tashkent. The mosque at the same time can accommodate in itself more than 3,000 people. After opening, the mosque minor became one of the largest spiritual centers of Muslims of Tashkent and all Uzbekistan. Electrification of the railway lines connecting the capital of Uzbekistan with regions of the country is carried out. The high-speed electric train of Afrosiyab along routes Tashkent-Samarkand and Tashkent-Karshi is brought into operation. In 2019 in Sheikh Hantakursky district of the capital in the house of the writer Abdullah of Qadiri opened the Memorial Museum. In the yard of the house the monument to the writer is established. The School of Creativity of Abdullah of Qadiri also opened. At the initiative of the President of Uzbekistan Shens M. Mirziyoyev in 2020-2021 the building of the former Showroom of Culture and Art of Uzbekistan reconstruct and the Museum of Tashkent will be for the first time created. On May 9, 2020 in Tashkent Victory Park opened. The initiative of the organization of the park in commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the victory over fascism belongs to the President Shens M. Mirziyoyev. The park located in Almazarsky district was stretched more than on 12 hectares of the earth. It consists of two thematic parts. The first represents participation of Uzbekistanites in battles, the second, Republic life in the back. In honor of Zulfiya Zakirova, her son's heroes, the monument, the Ode of Firmness, was created. On this subject a feature film Ilkik is shot. On February 16, 1999 in Tashkent there was a large-scale act of terrorism. In total in the city there were 5 explosions of big power, including, at the building of the Cabinet of the Republic. Tashkent consists of 11 areas. The Sherespolisny site of 385. 17 hectares located in the territory of the Tashkent region and 14 came to the northeast from Tashkent. Settlement of Uligbek. Relating to the Mirzo-Uligbekski district of Tashkent is a part of the territory of the city. The data published by Management on Land Resources and the State Inventory of the City of Tashkent in the form of Land Balance of Tashkent. As of January 1, 2016. And in the form of data on cadastral division of the city of Tashkent in some cases have essential differences in the relation of the area both certain areas and all city. So according to cadastral division, the square of the city of Tashkent is equal to 33500 hectares. At the 18th plenary session on August 27, 2021 Senators of the Supreme Chamber Oli Majlis approved the draft resolution on change of borders of Zangiatinsky, Ukarichksky, Atachachiksky, Kibraysky districts of the Tashkent region and the Sergeliysky, Bektemursky, Mirzo-Uligbekski and Yashnabadsky districts of Tashkent. According to the resolution, the territory of Tashkent extends due to joining of 7853. 3 hectares of lands of Zangiatinsky, Kibraysky, Ukarichksky, Atachachiksky districts of the Tashkent region. At the same time the Tashkent region will receive 171.3 hectares of lands from structure of Tashkent. In particular, the Sergeliysky district of Tashkent 1827. 1 hectares of lands of Zangiatinsky district of the Tashkent region are included. Chorboy, Belarik, Faisley, Zalair, Nemanek, Kumarik, Honabatepe, Taraksayat, Khorasov, Honabad, Kushbegi, Sakhibkor, Istiklal, Nurafshun waved. The Bektemursky district of Tashkent 490 hectares of lands of Ukarichksky district are included. Gulboy, Yikfram. And 1134. 2 hectares of Atachachiksky district of the Tashkent region. Bektemir, Nurafshun, Namuna, Yangihaid, Alishur the Nevo waved. Mirzo-Uligbekski district 2294.6 hectares of lands of Kibraysky district of the Tashkent region are included. Geophysics, Alisharobad, Shingaldi, Dustlik, Taraksayat, Barkamal, Bogashamal, Vatanparvar, Amir Temur, Mevaza of Gulbog, Golza -1, Pastkieskid. Yashnabadsky district 2107. 4 hectares of lands of Kabraysky district of the Tashkent region are included. Zherboshe, Tashisti, Ibrat, Mirishkar, Arjun, Bakar, Chiner, Tovkantepa. At the same time, 33.8 hectares of lands of the Sergelysky district of Tashkent. The list of Makhali isn't provided. Are planned to transfer to structure of Zangiatinsky district of the Tashkent region, and 137. 5 hectares of lands of Bekhtemursky district, to structure of Yukarichksky district. Population. As of July 1, 2020, the population of the city was 2,622,700 people. In 1983 the population of Tashkent totaled card people, and the area minus 256 came. In 1991 the constant number of residents of the capital made 2,136,600 people. On population Tashkent took the 4th place in the USSR after Moscow, Leningrad, St. Petersburg, and Kiev. National structure as of 2008. 63.0% Uzbeks, 20.0% Russians, 4.5% Tatars, 2.2% Koreans, 2.1% Kazakhs, 1.2% Uyghurs and 7.0% other nationalities. The structure of the Tashkent agglomeration, except Tashkent, includes the nearby settlements of Angren, Almalik, Akangaren, Kazalkent, Kiels, Toitepe, Chinez, Cherchik, Yagyel and others. Also as a part of agglomeration there are 15 urban-type settlements and 637 rural settlements. The total area of agglomeration minus 6,400 km. Economy. The largest specific weight and structure of release of industrial output of the Republic of Uzbekistan minus 19.2% of the Republican volume of the industry is the share of Tashkent. The greatest share of consumer goods of the Republic is also made in Tashkent minus 27. 1% of the total amount of consumer goods. The leading industry, mechanical engineering. Tashkent tractor plant, Tashkent Teplavoormeny plant, Tashkent mechanical plant and many others. There are plants of the electronic equipment. The photon, satellite, mechanical releasing resistors, integrated circuits, special materials and semi-finished products. Zenit specializing in integrated circuits and the radio equipment. The plant of the electronic equipment, partly, the Tashkent plant of the radio electronic equipment and the Tashkent plant of electronic algorithm computers. The Tashkent electromechanical plant specializing in production of automated control systems and means of communication. In Tashkent the only center in the CISIS for service of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner planes is located. Are also developed easy cotton knitted shoe. The building, chemical, petrochemical, chemical and pharmaceutical, food industry. In Tashkent the largest confectionery in Central Asia, Crafers, is located. The volume of the made industrial output minus 3,472.8 million sum. Growth by 2007, 136.8%. In Tashkent also numerous private enterprises of small business work. The volume of the industrial output made by them was 1,073.1 million sum. In Tashkent there are 2 areas where business centers, offices of the foreign companies and local banks are generally located. It is International Business Center, the International Business Center and the business region of Tashkent Business District. The special business area of Tashkent Business District is created for development of small, medium and large business in Uzbekistan. Here representative offices of many foreign companies, business centers, multi-brand boutiques, motor shows, offices of the oil and gas companies, head offices of banks and elite housing are located. Since 2018, construction of the International Business Center, Tashkent City, is begun. Also, construction of the International High-Tech Innovative Center Delta City is planned. Project cost, Daewoo realized together with South Korean POSCO, is estimated at $1.4 billion. Tashkent is the large aviation, railway and automobile junction. Airports. The international airport, Tashkent, of Islam Karimov, which is in the southern part of the city, is used for the international, republican and government flights. This airport always took especially significant place in transport infrastructure of the USSR, and its value for traffic flows of the CIS countries remain so far. Either way, Lari is the basic airport for planes of national airline. Tashkent East, which is on east outskirts of the city, was used as military transport airfield of joint basing of cargo aircrafts of airline earlier. Either way, Lari, the Air Force of the Republic of Uzbekistan, and Gao, Topoj, on which flights of military transport, experimental and state aircraft were carried up. At the moment, construction of a new civil aero complex for business aircraft continues. Also, I existed till 2019, and Tashkent Sageli, which is in the region of the satellite array, was taken out of service. In Soviet period, he was used for transportation of passengers across Uzbekistan. Now for this purpose it isn't used and doesn't work. Tashkent is served by 2 railway stations. Tashkent Northern. International directions, trains of Afrosiab. Tashkent Yushny. Interstate directions, departure of electric trains of the suburban message of the direction of Havast and Hadakakant. Tashkent, a starting point for the high-speed railroad of Uzbekistan. Land city transport. The main part of city transport is served by Tashkent Metro Stock Company. In Tashkent, the extensive network of routes of buses and share taxis works. Buses MAN, Mercedes-Benz Connector Loaf, Sazla, and buses of small capacity Isuzus constructed at the Samarkand joint venture Samovta are generally used. Taxi services, including Yandex, are widespread. Taxi. The trolleybus movement in Tashkent was stopped on May 1, 2010. The tram message was stopped on May 2, 2016. Tramways were dismantled, cars are transported and started in Samarkand. In August 2016, the third belt road besides already existing to the Tashkent Belt Road, Tiabur, and the small belt road, Saray, opened. Since 1977 in Tashkent, the first in Central Asia subway consisting of 3 mutually reported lines, Chilanzarsky, Uzbekistan and Yunusabadsky, and transfer, the Ring Line, all -43 stations works. In 2019, the passenger traffic of the subway made 71.2 million people. On length of ways, the Tashkent subway takes the fourth place in the former Soviet Union after the Kiev Street, Petersburg and Moscow subways. In 2016, construction of the Trestle-Sergelsky line began. In 2017, construction of the Trestle Ring Line is begun. The first site was put into operation on August 30, 2020. In December 1874 in Tashkent, the city water supply system was started. The French company Veolia Environnement for 25 years acquired the right to operate units for production and distribution of drinking water and sewage treatment in Tashkent. Science. In Tashkent in 1895, the Turkestan Circle of Fans of Archaeology, which set as the purpose, studying, the description and protection of the ancient monuments which are in borders of the Turkestan region, was created. This scientific organization for 20 years, up to 1916, published periodic bulletins with scientific articles on the history of the region. Now in Tashkent, the numerous scientific and design organizations work. Physics and Technology Institute of Uzbekistan, Institute of Electronics, Astronomical Institute of Mirza Ulugh Bek, the Central Asian Research Institute of Forestry, Institute of Nuclear Physics. In the settlement of Ulugh Bek, and many others. The higher education. Tashkent is the most important education center of Uzbekistan. In the city, the majority of the major objects of education of the country is concentrated. In the city, several institutions of Russian Orthodox Church function. Cathedral city of the Central Asian Metropolitan District. Theological Seminary. In 2012, the Regensky office training heads of church choirs opened. Culture and art. In Tashkent, there are numerous organizations of a scientific, pedagogical and cultural profile. Among them there are 12 theaters, 22 museums. In the city there are architectural historical monuments, for example, Mausoleum Shakantor, 15th century, and Kafel Shashi, Madrasa Barakan and Kukaldash, both 16th century. The Oakham Theatre, known for the experimental statements and non-conventional processings of classical works, is a highlight of cultural life of Tashkent. One of the most popular sports in Tashkent is the soccer. In the city, three most known football clubs of Uzbekistan, Pakhtakor, Bunyodkor and Lokomotiv, which is the acting winner of the Super League of Uzbekistan, are based. Since a season of 2002, exclusively Tashkent clubs became winners of the Super League. Because of their leading positions in Uzbekistan soccer, at least two capital clubs annually participate in the Champions League of AFI. Annually in September there takes place the tennis tournament of Tashkent Open. In the city there is a set of large sporting venues. Among them there are a tennis club, Unisabad, Pakhtakor and Milli stadiums, the multi-purpose ice arena of Humo Arena. In Tashkent often there take place large sports competitions, world and continental levels. So in the city 3 times. In 1995, 1999 and 2017. The Boxing Championship of Asia was held. Twice. In 2008 and 2010. There took place the Soccer Championship of Asia among youthful teams. In 2019, on routes of Tashkent and the Tashkent region there passed the Road Bicycle Racing Championship of Asia. Every year in Tashkent the World Cup stage in rhythmic gymnastics is held. In Tashkent the World Wrestling Championship of 2014 twice. In 1999 and 2011. The Fight Championship of Asia 3 times. In 2005, 2012 and 2016. The Judo Championship of Asia, the World Cup in Thai Boxing of 2011 and many other competitions was held. Massachusetts media. The Tashkent Television Tower, the highest construction of Tashkent, which height is 375 meters. Broadcasting of radio in Tashkent, as well as in all Uzbekistan, began in the second half of the 1950th, television in the second half of the 1960th. TV channels for the first time in the history of television transfer on radio on distance of the image of moving objects by means of only the electronic scheme of development of the image, without application of electromechanical development, was carried out on July 26, 1928 in Tashkent by inventors B.P. Grabowski and I.F. Belyansky. Most TV channels state they are under authority of National Broadcasting Company of Uzbekistan. Broadcasting is conducted, generally in Uzbek. Some TV channels release programs and in foreign languages, mainly in Russian, to a lesser extent in English. Broadcasting completely in a digital format, analog radio telecasting in Tashkent is stopped on July 15, 2018. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.